also have some information that, I've not been able to put out there.
What's that?
I'm also digging that. I'm the president of Citizens Quest for Truth Initiative, so
what truth have you found
that
when there are delays, after how many hours delay are passengers entitled to refreshment?
If you do a transaction of 10,000 naira in a month, and they will charge you COT of, let's say, I think it's about 20-something naira plus the VAT. At the end of the month, they will still charge another 100 naira for account maintenance fee, which is now looking too much. In other climes, talking about, for example, Kenya.
There can be the difference between being able to get to the hospital on time to receive life-saving medical assistance or dying at home alone. It can be the difference between getting to a job interview on time or missing the opportunity of a lifetime.
So reactions have continued to trail the bombshell allegations made by UK-based Nigerian, popularly known as Professor Ngbeke, in a Facebook live broadcast, where she accused Senator Natasha of contacting her for the sole purpose of helping her reach some agencies in the UK and lie against the Senate President of Nigeria. Now, as if to add insult to injury, Obi Ndukwe, during this interview, says she has even more evidence against Senator Natasha. Watch.
The truth of the matter is that when Natasha made those allegations, people also expected her to provide evidence, to the fact that she was sexually harassed, considering the fact that that incident had taken place more than a year ago, and then this is somebody else who is now alleging as well that Natasha lied against Senator Akpabio, and she's able to provide evidence, not just one, 2 or 3, and in fact she's even saying that she has multiple evidence that she will be ready to tender in court,
right.
And then of course she also claims that the authorities, the security agencies, both in Nigeria and where she released, have also verified, forensically tested these things, and then found out that the voice conversation, actually the voice belongs to Natasha and all that.
All right, let me ask you, Ms. Obi, how would you sum up the position in that Facebook post?
Well, I think that I won't blame her if she did, for what she did, come
blame
Facebook.
Who now? Because
I mean Dr. Sandra.
Okay.
Because even Natasha's matter was also in the media. It was a kind of also media trial, because up till now we are yet to hear what the courts have said. We are yet to see any evidence.
So I wanted to know what your own conclusion about what Professor Ngbeke has said.
Well, I don't want to go far, because I've also been following this matter, and I can tell you, Shane, that I also have some information that I've not been able to put out there.
What's that?
I'm also digging that. I'm the president of Citizens Quest for Truth Initiative. So
what truth have you found?
We believe that a lot of lies have been told, a lot of manipulations,
by the Senate President.
Yeah, no. By Natasha, who is alleged, a lot, just a lot. It's not something that we're not having.
What are you saying exactly?
No, the truth of the matter is that Nigerians were manipulated to believe the lies.
Of who?
Of Natasha. That's the truth of
As
the matter.
a woman, if you were in her shoes, if you were truly harassed, how would you go about it?
When this issue came up, I was one of those who supported her. That's the truth of the matter.
Why did you back?
Yeah, because that was on the issue of seat change and all that. But when the issue of sexual harassment came up, and I checked and I didn't see any substance in the matter, there's nothing to show that it actually happened, considering the fact that they have a relationship, the two families, and her husband and Akpabio, they are very close. I mean, somebody could not have sexually harassed you, and the next day you are seen with that same person. Eulogizing him, making Facebook posts, and then praising him and all that. That's beyond that. We need to also. I needed to go beyond what is being said in the public domain. And again, like I said, there were some information we gathered, some phone conversations that leaked, that have to do with the family where the man, she's her husband. And then we were able to piece some of these things together, and we saw that there is actually a pattern, where manipulation takes place, and then make people, like she said, most Nigerians are gullible. G and Heck, they are gullible and hungry. I don't know whether that's true, but not many people will have the time to say, let's dig beyond
so
this
you
to
don't
find out the
believe
truth.
you don't believe the claims of Senator Natasha Akpoti?
I will believe
that Godswill Akpabio
no. I will believe
allegedly, according to her, sexually harassed her.
No, I will believe when she provides the evidence. But she keeps saying, prolonging the evil, they're saying she will do that when the matters come in court.
So
President
Mbeki, right?
Yeah.
President Mbeki said that
Yeah.
she was being induced.
Okay.
And that, according to her, she allegedly claimed that Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan recruited Dr. Obi Ezekwesili.
Yeah, that's what she said.
For the profile of Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, do you believe that?
Well, the truth of the matter is that sometimes when you need this kind of, depending on what you intend to achieve, you know the persons that are credible. You know the people that you can actually approach. And probably that's the reason why she approached Professor Mbeki. If you listen to that phone conversation, how the first interaction they had, you know, probably she heard about her and knew that she could help her to take her case. But you see, at the age bracket where she's operating, where she is, she belongs. And Mbeki may be on the same, you know, page, or like the Obi thing. You know, Obi Ezekwesili, who is older. So she may be more comfortable in opening up to Professor Mbeki. As we are women, we know these things. When we sit down, we talk, we open up to those we can open up to. But you may not do that with an older woman. And so it's likely that in the course of the, you know, their relationship, she opened up a lot to her. But the fact that ordinarily myself, I won't throw out anything. But if you lied if you tell me that you lied and you want me to be involved, and I'm insisting that you should give me evidence, and you turn around and tell me there's no evidence, I'm only doing this because I need to pull down somebody.
All right.
I will work against
What
you.
are you made to believe?
Right now?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, she has thrown her evidence. Dr. Mbeki has been able to, you know, provide evidence, you know, to an extent. She said it's about 7% of what she has. And then I expect that Natasha should deal with those issues that she has actually raised. It's not about...
What have you, what are you made to believe as an organization?
I think it's a relationship that went wrong.
Sour.
Yeah, Natasha probably didn't expect that a day like this will come and Professor Mbeki will make a U-turn.
Do you believe that there could be a possible sexual harassment?
Well, these things happen. There are genuine cases of sexual harassment. I mean, it's not out of place. I mingle with politicians. I know what goes on around. I know that sometimes you want to run elections. Some people give you conditions. But I can tell you, it also depends on how you carry yourself. I've worked with some politicians that ordinary people claim that they are into women. They're randy. Yeah, they're randy. But it never happened with me. Why? Because when I come to you and we're walking, I insist that...
If it happens to you, how would you handle it?
If it happens to me, I may not go out there screaming blue murder. It may be something that since they have a relationship, I could also relate. I mean, the husband would have been the best to have handled this.
Let me ask you, do you believe Professor Mbeki?
Well, I think to an extent I do. I do because...
do you know her history?
Her history? Well, I think I know there was an issue sometime in Imo State. And, you know, initially...
With Ezemadumere?
Yeah, Ezemadumere. I ran into Ezemadumere's wife then, you know, and then she told me...
Does that call to question the personality of Professor Mbeki?
I won't do that because, you see, once you come out with the truth, if you're not careful, you'll be blackmailed. You know, those who have what it takes. So it's only for you to fight on until you get, and that's what we're saying. So prove your case.
Let me show you this. Okay. At some point in the video, where she raised her phone, there were some call logs. And you could see there, saved on the call logs, the latest call on her phone said Senate President. Below it is another call. Under is Senator Nedu Nwoko. So if you see it, I mean, which is displayed, you see it on the phone when she displays it. And there are those who are alleging that maybe the Senate President was behind all of this.
The call log, like I heard, was that these calls came while she was on air. And then I do not understand why somebody who is funding somebody to go and defend him or probably work for him will make a call when the person is on a live show. I don't want to understand that. Listen, a lot of things go on, you know, with ICT and all that. People can do all that. But
there are claims that President Mbeki says she doesn't know the Senate President.
Well,
there it goes that the name of the president was saved on our call log.
Well, like yesterday, I met somebody, a high-profile Nigerian. As he was going to give me his number, it was already in my phone. And I had never met him before. I now recalled that somebody had, I was inquiring on something and somebody had given me his number in case I needed to reach him. So that's that. For me, those are trivialities. Those are distractions. The issues are the evidence-based information. We need to clarify this. Did they really happen?
Yeah,
yes.
As a person, what is the biggest lesson? Yeah.
The biggest lesson. Both for Akpabio, I think that this, I've said it before, Akpabio also needs to separate business from, relationships. Sometimes he's a bit too playful, he jokes a lot about a lot of things, and then people also do take that as an advantage. Then secondly, for Natasha, I think that having gotten that opportunity to be in the Senate is not something you wish away. And of course, we know she's married and then she has at least some kind of protection. And in our culture, in our climate, what it means when a woman is married, irrespective of what people may say. Yeah. So I think that she would have probably narrowed the thing down to a family discussion and conversation.
But are you aware that the perhaps is a committee that's set by the president? A lot of people may not know this. That we understand that purportedly that the vice president is supposed to head the panel, where you had the NSA, the Attorney General of the Federal. You are aware?
Yes, I'm aware.
And that the Senate president pulled out of it.
Well, I don't know the reason, but I suspect that if you're accused and you know you didn't do it, why would you want to go in for a reconciliatory meeting? Except the person who has accused you decides to come to you and say, look, we need to mend fences.
So you think Senator Natasha Akpoti...
I believe that's probably his reason. I don't know.
You think Senator Natasha is lying?
I've said it before. I mean, there's no evidence to all her claims and there's no evidence to all the allegations.
So you think they are baseless?
Yes, they are baseless. As far as I'm concerned, they are baseless until proven otherwise. And I think we have waited long enough for us to get the evidence, and it's not forthcoming. So you can't keep, playing Nigerians, and you do a media trial, you go all over the world, you spill things about somebody, and then you can't provide the evidence. So it's a really, really difficult situation for anyone to just believe her, hook, line, and sinker. We deal with the truth. We verify. We see for ourselves. And so if it's not there, it's not there.
Obi Ndukwe, thank you so much.
Obviously, she's on the side of Senator Akpabio, which is fine. We all have our own biases. But the fact that seeing Akpabio's missed call on the phone of a woman who claimed she doesn't know the Senate president, honestly, in my opinion, doesn't really help her credibility. Now, if you fly locally, then you don't want to miss 1 second of this next interview. Their guest on Sunrise this morning is the PRO of the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA. The interview centered around flight delays, cancellations, and how to report defaulting airlines. The PRO also provided telephone numbers and emails passengers can use to contact them. And there is a new system that makes the process of paying refunds easier and faster. And it usually takes 14 days. Watch.
Well, I don't know how you have coped with a staggering 15,000 flight delays in 1 year. 15,000. First of all, how do you even count? How did you count up to 15,000 flight delays in 2024? I'm wondering, so how many flights did we have in 2024 then?
1,300 a month, approximately.
Mr. Chimugo.
Well, the thing is, when you speak about flight delays, in this volume, let's remember, that a lot of those delays are not lengthy delays, and then some of them are weather-related as well. But generally speaking, we have always admitted, the Honorable Minister for Aviation and Aerospace Development, my DG, Captain Chris Najomo, and myself, we've admitted a lot of the time that for years now, it's a situation we have met on ground, that Nigerian domestic carriers lack capacity. By capacity, I mean aircraft, to fly passengers. And this has been because of the situation with the lessors over the years. There used to be this situation where lessors had problems reclaiming their aircraft from Nigerian airlines operators, so they stopped leasing planes to Nigerian operators on dry lease especially. But the Honorable Minister has sorted this out now. As we speak, he's presently in Brazil. They'll be meeting with some aircraft manufacturers with a view to, bringing more aircraft into Nigeria. And sometimes, too, contrary to what passengers think, some of the disruptions are not the fault, of the airlines. For instance, it's not the duty of the airlines to provide bird strike equipment for themselves. So if upon approach to landing, there's a bird strike, and then that aircraft goes AOG, meaning aircraft on ground, means a technical issue. The blame cannot be on the airline. We've had a lot of those scenarios, but we are making sure that 2025 will be a better year for the industry.
Well,
in regards to delays and cancellations. In any case, I continue to say this, that flight disruptions are a global phenomenon. It's not, peculiar to Nigeria alone. But the regulations make provision for these instances. So it's not the fact of a disruption itself happening. It is, does the airline meet its required obligations when a disruption has happened? This is the area we are focusing our attention while bringing more aircraft into the country.
But, Mr. Chimugu, when it seems like one or two particular airlines or airline operators are notorious for these flight delays, then that's the first question, Even just recently, I just saw in the news that at some point, even the NCAA flagged one of those institutions for such delays, right? And even yesterday, that still happened. So it's not whether or not it happens. I'm very sure that Nigerians are quite sympathetic when these things happen from time to time. But when a particular operator is notorious for this particular issue that we have heard, that we are discussing, then it begs the question whether or not the NCAA or the authorities are doing anything to rein in this operator.
Well, as you may be aware, January, the NCAA, for the first time in its 25-year history, sanctioned 5 airlines for consumer protection-related infractions. One of them may or may not be, since you don't mention a name, may or may not be the airline you're talking about. But yes, yesterday the DGCA did meet with an airline, to discuss some of these issues. I will be specific because there have been a lot of complaints about Airpeace, for instance. But what I need people to understand is that Airpeace is Nigeria's largest, domestic operator. And because they operate more flights than probably all the other airlines combined, it follows naturally that their disruptions will be more. It's common mathematics, And again, like I said earlier, not all disruptions are the fault of the airlines, right? Our duty at the CAA is to meet with the operators, discuss with them, find out what their challenges are. The areas where the airlines are at fault, the CAA will stamp its authority. Where it's not the airlines, the airline is not culpable, we discuss with the other stakeholders with a view to resolving these issues. But we must understand at this point that we do have a capacity problem in Nigeria. What the NCAA is saying to the operators is simple. If you have aircraft on ground with technical issues, bird strikes, and the rest of those issues, then cut down the size of your operations. For instance, if you are carrying out a 5-aircraft operation and suddenly 2 of those aircraft have faults, then you must cut down the number of sectors you are flying for that day, so that you don't sell tickets to passengers to destinations you know you may not be able to fly. And if any operator continues to, commit infractions such as this, then there will be heavier sanctions this year than there were previously. That is what the CAA is saying.
Okay. I'll come to the Bill of Rights if you don't mention it in this next question, Mr. Chimugu, because your organization has created what you call a centralized passenger information portal, which was recently unveiled to address issues and agitations arising from flight delays and cancellations. So please tell us more about it.
At the CAA, what we have is the Consumer Protection Regulations, Part 19 of the NCAA Regulations of 2023. That portal was established to make the process of passenger complaints and resolutions more seamless. So we have onboarded, all of the operators, domestic and international, as well as our consumer protection officers who are always present at all the airport terminals, so that passengers can come on that portal, drop their complaints, and then which are forwarded to the airlines respectively, and then the cases are resolved there, and then the data shows. We have a dashboard. Which case has gone to this airline? How fast have they resolved these cases? How many have been resolved so far? How many are pending? As against what used to be before, people used to drop hard copies of their complaints. Then, you have to do mails to the airlines. All of those things were prolonging the time. Bear in mind that in aviation, especially consumer protection, there are time frames for the resolution of cases, according to the regulations and international conventions. For instance, for refund of tickets not purchased by cash, an airline has 14 days to pay that refund, right? Now, if we do not have a seamless process of, handling these complaints, what you find is that processing those refunds could take months. But now we have a system that makes it easier and faster, and that is why we are able to say to the airlines, immediately the CAA forwards a complaint to you, your time starts to count. If you do not process within the stipulated time frame, then there will be sanctions for that. That is why it's on the basis of that we sanctioned those 5 airlines recently, because of delayed refunds. And yesterday, we also held a meeting, not only with Airpeace, and bear in mind, yesterday's meeting with Airpeace was not about refunds, but we held a meeting with Ethiopian Airlines as well, and this also formed part of our discussions with them. Some of the airlines are now beginning to rejig their systems, their refund systems, to be able to cope with these time frames. And it's going to be much better this year. The responses have been encouraging.
Okay, Mr. Chimugu, you mentioned sometimes the reasons are technical and sometimes they are weather-related. But are there not cases when the delays are due specifically to plain incompetence of the airlines?
No airline wants to own a plane and not fly passengers. They would lose a lot of money. Because you see, where you even park your plane at the airport, you pay charges for that. So you can't have an aircraft and not fly that aircraft. You'd lose. So some of the instances where it's the fault of the airline is knowing that you do not have an aircraft for that flight, or NIMET has told you that by 4 p.m. today weather will be bad, and you still sell tickets to routes you know you'd not fly. If we discover issues like that, we'll sanction the airline. Or you do not have enough aircraft, you are expecting to have a rescue aircraft which is not yet on ground. You have kept passengers without providing them adequate information as to that delay. Or you have kept passengers up till 10 p.m. and then you are cancelling that flight and you are not providing accommodation. If that flight is operating not in the city where the passenger is resident, there are regulations that cover each different infraction. So if the airline does not comply with the regulations, then we will wield the hammer. Unfortunately, before we came, maybe the authority did not, apply a lot of these regulations as they should have. But since Keamo came into office, he's been very passionate about consumer protection. He's spoken widely about it. And fortunately for the authority too, and for passengers, the DGCA, Captain Chris Najomo, used to occupy the seat I now occupy, meaning that he was Director of Consumer Protection in the past. So it's something he is passionate about. Maybe the tools or the political will just wasn't there. But right now, it's a new NCAA and it's a new direction. And we have held the largest volume of stakeholder engagement in the history of the authority last year with all of the airlines. We understand now the areas where they are at fault, the areas where the other stakeholders are at fault, and so we are able to apply the rules where necessary. The operators themselves appreciate the work we are doing, and there are better days ahead for Nigerian passengers. This I can promise.
Mr. Chimogu, you in response when you started to answer my question, you said NIMED tells you that there's going to be bad weather where you're going, and you still sell tickets. You can appreciate that many of those tickets are sold not the day that the person intends to fly. Some people may have bought their tickets 2 months ago. So at that point, NIMED doesn't know whether there's going to be good weather in Abuja or not. I bought my tickets in January, and I want to travel in May. And I get there, and they tell me I cannot fly because there's bad weather. In that case, what can the airline do?
Yeah. The airline cannot do anything about bad weather. That's why the regulations, not just in Nigeria, but globally, make provision for force majeure, circumstances beyond the control of the airline. How do you want to punish an airline for weather that is not within, their purview to control? And if weather is bad in any case, why would a passenger insist on flying when you don't want to die? Last week I was due to fly from Lagos back to Abuja. I had an emergency in Abuja. And then there was a delay because of late arrival of the operating aircraft. We endured that delay, but when the aircraft had landed, we were about to board, then there was bad weather. We had to sit down again and wait because nobody wants to be up in the sky when weather is bad. And we urge passengers to study the NCAA regulations and understand not only their rights, but their responsibilities as well. There's a lot of disruptions that are caused because passengers arrive late for check-in. They did not check in online. They cannot get boarding passes, and then they become unruly. It causes delays at the airport as well. It's a whole lot of a gamut of issues that can only be better understood if passengers will take the time to study the regulations. But we've been carrying out major awareness. And again, last year, I must state on TV here that last year, 2024, the CAA recorded the highest number of refunds, ticket refunds in the history of Nigeria, and also compensations. Most of the airlines offer compensations of up to 25% and most times even 50% rebate on your next flight where some of these disruptions have happened. I wonder sometimes why passengers don't mention these things. We understand the frustrations, with delayed and cancelled flights. But also in my experience in the CAA, there's been bad news spread wider than good news. So a lot of passengers speak about, their bad experiences. But we have resolved a lot of those cases amicably, satisfactorily. They never come back to speak about these issues. But the statistics don't lie. There's vast improvement now, in the industry, and will continue to get better.
Well, that is wonderful news, Mr. Chimogu. We're all happy to hear that. But listen to this scenario. Somebody is scheduled to fly out from outside Lagos. His flight to Lagos is delayed by several hours, and he misses his connection to his overseas flight. What should happen to that person? What should happen to him? Should the airline not take care of him until he can make his connection?
It depends on the cause. It depends on the cause of that disruption. That's the message I've been speaking.
Okay.
If it was force majeure, the airline is not culpable and cannot be punished. Yes, if the weather out of, say, Abuja to Lagos, where your connecting flight will be departing from, is bad, you cannot hold the airline responsible for that. But if it was some sort of negligence on the part of the airline will take responsibility, definitely. The regulations are clear about these things.
Well, it's just that sometimes those airlines don't seem to know that they have any responsibilities towards the passengers when such things happen. They leave them in the lurch. Take my case, for instance. I had a ticket to fly to Warri. They said they were not going to fly to Warri, and they would take me to Benin. So they took me to Benin and abandoned me in Benin. I was supposed to walk from Benin to Warri?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I'm sorry for that experience. I empathize with you, and sincerely, I'm sorry about that. Now, there's provision for those kind of scenarios, even abroad. But the airline has a responsibility. If for any reason they cannot get to your final destination, wherever they drop you, the flight stops. The airline has the responsibility to provide alternative transportation from that point to final destination. They owe you that. And where they have failed to carry out that responsibility, you have every right to report to the CAA. We will deal with it.
Okay. Now, to the portal, you've talked about the portal quite a few times. How do people navigate to that portal, at least to, do they need to register, you know,
complaints?
Do they need to register themselves before they, you know, log their complaints?
No. At every airport terminal, we have QR codes on the walls, on doors, everywhere. You know, all you need to do is scan the QR code. It takes you straight to the portal, and then you can file your complaint. But just for the purpose of people who may not have direct access, you know, to the QR code, it's cpd.nca.gov.ng. You know, you can just go online anytime. This year, in a few months' time, we'll be launching the mobile app as well. So every Nigerian passenger, you know, will have that mobile app on their phone for easy and seamless access. We also have emails, official emails, complaint emails where, you know, passengers can send their complaints. There's 3 of them. I'll quickly run through them. There's michael.achimugu@ncaa.gov.ng. That comes directly to me. There's Ifueko being IFUEKO, Ifueko.abdulmalik@nca.gov.ng. There's CPD means Consumer Protection Department, cpd@ncaa.gov.ng. Any of those 3 emails, usually we advise passengers to copy the 3 emails at least. michael.achimugu@ncaa.gov.ng.
I'm on the portal now, Mr. Chimugu, and I can see the complainant name, email, the type of complaint, and quite a number of them, you know. But just to be clear, the email, the URL you gave is cpd.ncaa.gov.ng. And I'm on that platform myself right now. And a number of things are there. So what's the timeline for response? What's the timeline that people should expect that this complaint that we have made, this is what has been done, and this is the length of time it took to get it done? And then will they get an email saying your issue has been resolved?
When you go through the portal, you get an instant automated response, acknowledging receipt, first of all, of your complaint. After that, we escalate to the airlines. Now, we've been educating every passenger. There's different timelines for the resolution of different complaints. For instance, refunds. The regulations stipulate that where a ticket has been purchased by cash, the passenger is entitled to an immediate cash refund there and then at the terminal. But where it's been purchased by any other means except by cash, then the airline has 14 days to refund the passenger. So unfortunately, most passengers, when they file these complaints, they expect, you know, a resolution immediately. But it's because most people do not understand the regulations. So from the moment you file that complaint, the airline, and we have escalated to the airline, they have up to 14 days to process that refund. For short-landed baggage, meaning when you have arrived but your bags do not arrive with you, there's 2 things here. For domestic flights, the airline immediately owes you 10,000 naira. We call it first need compensation. For international flights, it's $170, right? This is for you to be able to get toiletries, you know, and immediate needs. The airline has 7 days for domestic flights to search for your bag and reconcile you with your bag. For international flights, the airline has 21 days to search for that bag and reconcile you with the bag. Where the airline has failed to find the bag and is declared missing after those number of days, then the airline does owe you compensation for them.
Okay.
So we need to, be clear about the time frame for the different kinds of cases. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chimugu, when there are delays, after how many hours delay are passengers entitled to refreshment from the airlines? From the airline?
2 hours.
2 hours. Please take note, people. After 2 hours, demand your soft drink.
Domestic flights, yes. 2 hours.
Well, I can also see, Mr. Chimugu, I can also see that.
Another point, please, before we go on. Another point I really would like to make, if you will allow me, please.
Yes.
Please take note that you don't have to focus on the portal all the time. We have staff physically present at the terminals. So if you have an immediate problem that requires urgent solutions, just ask for the NCAA Consumer Protection Desk or office. They are present, they are even in uniform now, bright new uniforms. So they are easily recognizable. More often than not, they can resolve your issue instantly.
All I can say is, I've seen this movie before. But did you guys notice how he answered the question on refreshments?
After how many hours delay are passengers entitled to refreshment from the airlines? From the airline?
2 hours.
2 hours.
So Nigerians have long expressed frustrations over the numerous and often hidden charges associated with their banking and electronic transactions. What might seem like minor deductions, when accumulated, create a significant burden for bank customers. But rather than address these concerns, the banks in Nigeria only recently just increased their charges.
What exactly does this mean for Nigerians who are banking and are having, some of these charges imposed on them every now and then? In the face of the economic inclusion that we have been saying over the years, that we want to have more people who own bank accounts, and then we're having these bank charges here and there. I mean, isn't it going to discourage people from banking?
All right, thank you very much for having me once again. For the SMS alert charge, I think we just need to create awareness that there's an alternative to SMS alert fee. And I think even the banks are also creating that awareness, because the cost is not to be borne by the banks, it's to be borne by the customers as a result of the general increase in tariff by the telcos in Nigeria. So the telecommunications company have decided that, okay, because power has become more expensive and the high cost of running business is also high, there's need for them to increase the cost of phone calls, data, and other, services that they deliver. So as a result of that, it affected the SMS alert charge as well, 50% increase. But there's an alternative to that. It's not compulsory that one must receive SMS alert. There's an alternative of email alert. So email alert is free. You don't get to pay for receiving email alert. So customers can decide to disable SMS alert if they don't really want it, because both the SMS alert and the email alert, they come in almost the same minute. So possibly there might be no need to continue to get SMS alert.
All right.
Can go for the email alert.
All right, Olojede, talk to us about the issue of financial inclusion. If we say we want more people to be in the banking, circle, to have more bank accounts, and then, of course, more women, more youths, and all of that, and then all of this keep happening, people being, faced with several charges, one charge or the other, and all of that. Wouldn't this discourage, those unbanked people who want to bank?
Well, I don't think it's significant enough to make that, to have that effect that you spoke about. So I look at let's say the lowest rung of the ladder. So the question is, how many transactions go through their bank account on a day? So maybe 1, maybe 2. So if 2 transactions go through the account on a daily basis, so you're going to be paying an additional 4 naira. The kind of we're trying to bring people out of poverty, try to moderate costs, but the kind of costs we are after, the kind of burden we have to chase, is not a 2 naira or a 4 naira issue. We have to think bigger so that we can actually make an impact if we're trying to pull people out of poverty or encourage them to consume banking services. Where we might have a bit more impact will be people who are into retail business, and they receive a whole lot of transactions passed through their account in a day. The reality is that even for this, for this stratum of the market, they value this SMS alert, and I'm not convinced that the additional 2 naira will probably make them want to say, no, I don't want to see alert again, SMS alert again. I'll rather stick with the email. So effectively, the impact of an additional 2 naira is not significant enough to dissuade the driving of financial inclusion if we explain it to people, especially the people who might not know why this is happening, to say, look, this is the reality. And there is indeed a lot of value in being able to receive SMS alert. And like the former speaker said, if you don't want it, maybe you can opt out of it. We were in this country when there were no SMS alert. Just that it is no longer safe. In fact, part of what we need to sell to people we are trying to bring into that segment of bank is to say, look, you're going to be more safe if you receive this alert. You will be on top of what is going on in your account. So it could be sold as something that will support them and for which value has been created, and they will be okay to pay an additional 2 naira.
All right, sir. So, Lojade, at the heart of this conversation is the issue of excessive bank charges relative to Nigeria. And there's a comedian, his name is AY, who recently wrote, and I want to quote for you, he said, where do banks get the trillions they declare as profits every quarter, even in a struggling economy? The small charges and debits on our accounts need to be challenged. Many of these fees are unique to Nigeria. Why is that? And so even those who shouldn't feel the heat are saying that, look, these charges are coming in different forms, and before you know it, it's becoming substantial. And the banks are smiling to the bank, while those banking with the banks are complaining that they are losing some monies that at the end of the year, when you put it together, it's something quite substantial.
Well, this is where the regulator comes in. I know that CBN has been doing a bit in that direction, encouraging people to make direct complaint to them about issues regarding charges. There is also a document called the Banker's Tariff. It is good enough for people, at least the literate people, to familiarize themselves with this Banker's Tariff, so that if a bank is charging you out of the allowed tariff, you can make a complaint and you can make a case and you will get back your money. It's also important to analyze the financials of the bank. And what we're going to find is that most of this profit, the primary business, of course, is to create loans. So I don't think that is where most of the charges are coming from. And if there are charges coming from there, if you have procured a loan from a bank, you should check the charges you are receiving to ensure that it aligns with the offer letter that you have signed. And where there are discrepancies, make a case with your bank or make a case with the CBN. But of course, start with your bank. So it's a space for the regulators to step in and help us to sanitize. At the same time, it's a place where we need to drive the consciousness that there are documents like Banker's Tariff that guide what a bank should charge for a particular service.
And Dr. Ogunsola, how do you react to this? Because people keep saying that in other jurisdictions, some of these charges do not apply so much. People who own bank accounts in other countries keep saying that they don't get some of these charges every now and then, including this SMS we're talking about. So why is that of Nigeria particularly peculiar?
Well, I think it's something of concern. I also happen to be an expert on excess bank charges, reconciliation and recovery for some of my clients. And we've discovered that there are some tricks, in these bank charges, especially, particularly, talking about there is commission on turnover for every transaction, that is 50 naira, and then VAT inclusive for transactions more than, I think more than 10,000 naira, more than 20,000 naira or so. Then there is, a commission on turnover for, 10,000 naira less, then 20,000 to 50,000 naira. Now, after this commission on turnover, there is what they call account maintenance fee that they charge every month. And the fee is charged that for every 1,000 naira that is debited on your account, the bank takes 1 naira. Now, there is also a debit, that same debit that they want to charge on, they have taken commission on turnover. So it's not like a double charges, on that customer. For example, if you do a transaction of 10,000 naira in a month, and they will charge you COT of, let's say, I think it's about 20-something naira plus the VAT. At the end of the month, they will still charge another 100 naira for account maintenance fee, which is now looking too much. In other climes, talking about, for example, Kenya, there is a bank that is even using it as an advert, that come and open an account with us, and account maintenance fee free, no charges. Customers will just, move into such banks. So we want to call on the regulators, the CBN, to see how to possibly erode this account maintenance fee, or possibly looking at unifying the charges so that it's going to come once instead of putting various levels of charges on customers.
All right, could this also have driven some people into embracing like new forms of banking, like Islamic banking, that has to do with ethical issues and all of that?
Oh yes, that's what is driving people also into the fintech, because some of this account maintenance fee, many customers have complained that what is account maintenance fee after charging me COT plus VAT, on the same transaction. So that is driving them to the fintech and other forms of banking.
All right, and I bring you back, Olojede. Let's talk about what could be the best practices. I mean, looking at other jurisdictions, I mean, what should be the best practice for Nigeria in terms of this to reduce this, and so as not to actually have people feeling that it's better for them to keep their monies at home? Because even within some Western countries, I've had some friends actually tell me that they prefer to be given cash than to be paid money for transactions through the banking system. Because, I mean, when their monies go through the banking system, they don't get it exactly at the same amount that they will get if it's cash.
Well, we have to be careful about copy and paste, that this is the way it works in America, and therefore this is the way it ought to work in Nigeria. At the same time, we must ensure, at least this is a duty of government or its representatives via the regulators, to ensure that the consuming populace are not being fleeced by operators of the system. So my take will be that, look, we can sit down, and there are forums, there are platforms for having this discussion. One of it is the Bankers Committee, where CBN is, is part of all those discussions, and the CEOs of the banks or their representatives are also part of that discussion. We can have sessions involving all stakeholders where we bring all these issues up, and we are able to understand it better. We're able to table the grievances and arrive at win-win solutions to this matter. I always don't want us to take, this is how it is there, therefore let's copy it. I remember when I was in telecoms and we're trying to compare certain costs, and somebody says, in my country where the cost is better, nobody harasses you for bringing fuel to your tower. Maybe you don't even have to bring fuel to your towers in those kind of countries. But here, there are peculiarities to our cost profile, cost of doing business in Nigeria. We need to consider that, but we must ensure that people are not being fleeced. And to champion that part is the government through its regulators. There are platforms. So let's exploit those platforms to bring all these issues up and settle the grievances in a win-win situation.
As we try to round off this conversation, Dr. Akin Ogunshola, talk to us about the regulators. I mean, is the CBN or the NCC, are they really overwhelmed by some of these issues that it becomes pretty much difficult to regulate the appetite of some of these banks to actually, want to increase all these, charges in one way or the other?
Oh, well, I don't think the CBN, the regulator, cannot be overwhelmed. They are capable to actually regulate and see through to customers, Nigerians, enjoying, corporate services that is optimal and, devoid of cheating of customers and excessive bank charges. So they are not overwhelmed. But possibly customers, and thank God for this avenue, customers need to continue to let them know the challenges that they face and how this can be curbed. Yes, CBN always say report to us anytime you have excessive charges and all that. But not all customers can reach out to CBN, at the same time. Yeah,
but in this instance, what should the NCC, for example, be doing to protect, consumers who have to pay extra because of this? You had offered a way out earlier that you could actually subscribe to email, but it would be interesting to know that a lot of Nigerians also don't have email addresses, or they just open it just because the banks are asking for it, and after that, they hardly check their emails.
Yes, for those that cannot check that doesn't have email, possibly those that don't have Android phones and close to technology, they will have to continue to, visit the bank to get bank statements and see, what's happening. But they need those SMS alerts. So if they can afford to just overlook the 2 Naira increase and continue to enjoy the service so that they can use it to monitor their transaction, that will be fine for them. Right. But there's a benefit of get an email and you will be free of these charges. So they will also work towards getting an email.
All right, Olojede, and ask you the same question just before I let us go. Any room for the regulator? Are they overwhelmed? What should the NCC do? In the face of this bank alert charges, charge increase. What should the NCC be doing alongside the CBN?
NCC has approved the increase in tariff by 50%. This is just an implementation of an approval by NCC. So as far as that particular charge is concerned, I don't think there's anything the NCC can do unless it wants to offer to take that bit and pay it to the service provider, which is not impossible. One of the banks that I use sent me a message and said, we're going to bear that cost for a bit. So maybe they will bear it for 1 month, for 2 months, I don't know. So you might have other banks also who may want to do it as some sort of CSR for the people around this time when the economy is booting, and say, look, that is my own contribution. I will carry that burden for you for a while. Government, as part of its own direct intervention, may also want to do it. I doubt, though, because we are gradually, doing away with issues of subsidies. So the bottom line is somebody has to pay it. It is either the telecoms companies are willing to absorb it. NCC, the regulator, might say, I have this huge wallet, I want to absorb it. But the easiest path is that the customers will have to bear it. In this particular case, NCC has done its bit by approving.
Honestly, the fact that the monthly maintenance fee still exists tells you everything that you need to know about the banking regulators in Nigeria.
The Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, has unveiled new coastal and shuttle buses to ease transportation costs, majorly for the elderly and school children in Surulere Federal Constituency, and that's in partnership with the Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority. It also offers 25% discount in transportation fees for workers. Senior reporter Ayomide Ajegbe has details on this report.
The coastal buses and shuttle van donated for the use of the people of Surulere and by extension Lagos is aimed at providing succor to school children and the elderly. In the separate remarks, the chairman of Surulere Local Government and APC chairman, who also doubles as chairman Gbaja Ride Committee, highlights the importance of the transportation intervention for the students and the elderly.
What you are doing today is for our students, our young ones and the elders from age of 60, 65 upward are free to enter all these buses free of charge. Likewise the children. We thank you, sir.
You can see some students there. They are going to be plying this bus from the hours of 7 a.m. in the morning
to 8:30 a.m. in the morning going to school, free of charge. Also coming back from school from the hours of 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., free of charge.
Other stakeholders in the party and the state who spoke at the event appreciate the magnanimity of the Chief of Staff, as they emphasized that the ride is not just for poverty alleviation, but to support parents with low income to keep their children at school.
The ride is mainly for social purpose. The commercial aspect came in just because it should be a self-running program. That is why it is like that. But mainly is for the social purpose, which is what Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila always pushes for.
For every child that takes this bus free of charge, the parent has an extra money he needs for our pocket. This program, apart from that, is also to encourage our young ones to go to school.
The Chief of Staff to the President in his speech says the Gbaja Ride is a developmental program to ensure access to safe, reliable and affordable transport services with priorities for the elderly and school children.
Access to these services, especially for young children in school, for older people, for the less able, and for all those who struggle with their income, can be the difference between succeeding in school or failing because of a lack of regular attendance. So it can be the difference between being able to get to the hospital on time to receive life-saving medical assistance or dying at home alone. It can be the difference between getting to a job interview on time or missing the opportunity of a lifetime.
This social and commercial service has provided direct employment opportunities for 30 grant staff and 66 drivers as fuel, salaries of staff and maintainers to be covered for the next 3 months by the Chief of Staff, while parks have been secured to ensure smooth service.
So where is the money funding this project coming from? Or does the Chief of Staff have access to fund these kinds of projects from the presidential coffers? And is this project for humanity, or is using them to set in motion its rumored governorship ambition? And knowing Surulere the way I know it, I hope there will be no discrimination for certain people to get on these buses. I hope the buses will also ply routes or local governments known not to vote for the APC in the state. Funny enough, the report didn't say how many Gbaja Ride buses are there and which routes they are going to be plying. Last I checked, Surulere is divided into Surulere 1 and Surulere 2. And I think the Chief of Staff is in Surulere 1. So the question is, are these buses going to walk throughout Surulere? Or is it just going to be for the people of Surulere 1 alone? Were all these details deliberately left out, or it was just an oversight? Having said that, I think the Chief of Staff deserves our commendation.